This segment is about exit planning for your business when you're getting ready to sell. Welcome to the program. I'm Mark Imperial, and this segment's brought to you by booksgrowbusiness.com. It's the place where busy professionals get their books done and published to lead their field, educate consumers, and leave a legacy. Joining me on this segment is Chris Lucas. He's the founder of Lucas Valuation Group. Chris, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Chris, tell us a little bit about your work and specifically who are the types of clients that you help?
Good question. So the focus of my practice is really on helping the owners of small and medium-sized businesses. So my typical client is going to have revenues somewhere between $500,000 and $20 million. I can go larger than that, but that's kind of where my marketing takes me.
For that size of a business owner, they're great at starting their businesses, growth, but when it comes time to selling or exiting their business, how experienced are they? How much thought have they put into that, and how prepared are they when you speak with them?
So it ranges, from owner to owner, but on the whole, owners tend to be very focused on doing what they need to do in order to keep their business operating, and the transition plan out in the future is something that is it's not an immediate problem, and so it tends to be not focused on so much.
What are some of the dangers for business owners who may not place importance on exit planning or maybe neglect it altogether? What are some of the dangers or pitfalls that they might face?
Well, so there are a number of them. There are a number of things that cause business owners to have difficulty selling their businesses. And those are typically going to include unrealistic price expectations. They're going to include bad financial records. And then also, what was the third thing I was trying to remember? It'll come to me in a minute.
Right on. So what are some of the preconceived notions these business owners might have? Do they think it's really that simple to just sell, almost like they're selling a house or a property, or what's on their mind when they first think of selling?
I think largely it's just not something that they're focused on. I think people get excited about the opportunity to get into business, and then they get some success, and they're going and going and going. And one of the big risks that I have observed is that business owners tend to be very focused until the moment that they first think that they might be able to sell their business and walk away from it. And what I've observed is that the time lag leading up to from the time the business has started to the time they first have that thought in a serious way can be quite long. But once they have that thought for the first time in a serious way, they tend to move from thinking about it to being ready to pull the trigger very quickly. And a lot of times their businesses haven't caught up with their readiness to hit the sale button.
In today's economy, after the pandemic, has anything changed in regards to exit planning or preparing a business? Anything change or anything in the market changed?
Not so much. I think during the pandemic, we had some liquidity issues, but for now, the market remains pretty robust. Interest rates have risen, which is going to increase the cost of financing and acquisition of a business. So that's going to put a downward dampener on business sales. But for the most part, they're sellable businesses. There's always buyers out there for them.
Chris, what inspired you to get into this field and help business owners with their exit planning? How did you get started?
Well, from the time that I first started my career, which is in banking back many years ago, I had a real interest in small businesses and understanding how they worked. That eventually led me out of banking and into business appraisal. And then when I started my practice in 2018, I decided to really focus on small businesses. Prior to 2018, I was looking at medium to larger businesses as a rule. And once I transitioned from a larger business focus to a small business focus, I really started to get interested in the idea of business exit planning.
Before I ask you my last question, regarding exit planning, is there anything that I didn't think to ask you that you feel is really important to share with business owners today?
I think there are a lot of things to be thinking about. Reasons that businesses failed to sell. It's important to be planning. I think it's really important for business owners to be thinking about having multiple paths to exit, because in the current environment, or in some environments, should we enter a recession, it may be difficult to find a buyer for the business. But there are other alternatives, which could include sale to an ESOP or other types of exit opportunities that business owners have available to them, that need to be considered. And so it's really important for owners to be thinking about the whole spectrum of how they might be able to transition out of their business, and to be thinking about that years in advance. And that's another thing that's really important. So starting to plan 3 months prior to sale is a little late. It's really best to start laying the groundwork several years in advance. And if you stop and think about professionally managed businesses, they tend to be thinking about the exit from the time that the business is founded. So these are I'm thinking about companies that are venture capital type companies, where they're getting large valuations before they have even revenue. And that's because they've got professional management who's thinking about the end from the beginning. So it's never too early to start that planning process.
Sage advice. For business owners listening who would love to speak with you and maybe get your help, how can they find you and connect with you?
Absolutely. My website is www.lvg-llc, that's for Lucas Valuation Group-llc.com. And chris.lucas@lvg-llc.com. My phone number is 646-415-2000. And I'm happy to connect with anyone on LinkedIn. They'll be able to subscribe to my newsletter, which I started to put out in March, called the Exit Planner, focusing on exit planning issues for small and medium-sized businesses. And that will be available by connecting with me on LinkedIn, Chris Lucas at Lucas Valuation Group.
This has been terrific. I really appreciate you taking the time to share with my audience today, and I wish you continued success for you and for all of your clients.
Great, Mark. Thanks so much.
That was Chris Lucas. He's the founder of the Lucas Valuation Group, and the segment's been brought to you by booksgrowbusiness.com. It's the place where busy professionals finally get their books published to lead their fields, grow their businesses, and to leave a legacy. That's all for now. I'm Mark Imperial, and thanks for joining me.